and welcome back. So this will be another Tunisian crochet video tutorial focused on cables in Tunisian crochet. So today we are going to be working on very basic Staghorn stitch pattern. So this would be the one that runs centrally on my little swatch. So each side of the cable will need 6 stitches for the basic stitch pattern. So this would be 6 and 6, so you will need 12 stitches for the cable. And I like to have background of Tunisian pearl stitches, so this would be another 2 stitches on sides and then edge stitches. So previously, in the previous videos, we've learned the basic twisted cables, right leaning and left leaning, and now we are going to be putting this together for the basic Staghorn stitch pattern. So without further ado, let's dive in. To start with, we are going to make a slip knot and then chain. The number of chains that you need corresponds to the number of stitches that you will need for the stitch pattern. So I'm going to show you just the basics. So I will need 2 chains, 1 and 2 for edges, 4 for the background of Tunisian pearl stitches, so that's 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I will need 12 for the basic cable pattern. 1, 2, 3, 12. Okay, and as you might know, we are now going to turn the chains around and work into the back bumps of your chain stitches. You yarn over and pull up a loop. Work across the row, inserting your hook into each of the back bumps all the way. And this is the forward pass of your foundation row. So this is the setup row where you determine how many stitches you're going to be working with. And the number of loops on your hook should correspond to the number of stitches or the number of chains that you started with. Then we will continue with the standard return pass. So you will then yarn over, pull through 1, and yarn over, pull through 2, and you will work across the row, yarn over, pull through 2 all the way until you have 1 loop left on the hook, and that loop forms the right edge of your swatch or of your project, and it also is the first stitch of the consecutive row. Okay, so what we are going to do now, as you can see on the swatch, I didn't start cabling right away. I first worked few Tunisian stitches and Tunisian pearl stitches before I started twisting, or before I started the stitch pattern. So that's what we are going to do now. So we will work first 2 Tunisian pearl stitches to form the background, 1 and 2. Then you will work Tunisian knit stitches across to the last 3 stitches. So this is where you mark up the area for your cable. If you have a larger swatch, then you will perhaps have different stitch patterns. Maybe you want to throw in a simple twisted cable like on this swatch here. It's entirely up to you. I am just showing you the very bare basics for how to make this cable. So I'm now on the last 3 stitches. I will work 2 Tunisian pearl stitches like so, and then an end stitch, which is worked under 2 strands of the last stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You will then work standard return pass, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to repeat the row number 2 once more, just to give myself a little bit more space on the bottom edge before I start working the cable. So go ahead, work another row just like we worked now, and then I'll meet you for the next row where we start working the cable pattern. Welcome back. So now the grand finale, we are going to be working the cables now. And the Staghorn stitch pattern cable is very simple. So we will start, we can split it in two sections. So the first 6 stitches we will be working the C6B. So we will be holding the cable needle behind the swatch, and on the next 6 stitches we will work C6F, where we'll be holding the cable needle with the stitches at the front of the fabric. And that's all that is there to it. So I'm going to work 1, 2, 3 stitches, knit stitches, Tunisian knit stitches. We'll place the stitches on the cable needle and hold this at the back. Work another 3 Tunisian knit stitches, 1, 2 and 3, and then slide the stitches from the cable needle back onto the Tunisian crochet hook. And then the next 3 stitches, work next 3 Tunisian knit stitches, place them on the cable needle and hold them at the front. Work the last 3 Tunisian knit stitches, slide the stitches from the cable needle back onto hook, and now 2 Tunisian purl stitches to finish off the row and an end stitch. And again we follow this by the standard return pass. So we yarn over pull through 1, over pull through 2. Okay, now when we get to the part where we form the cable by swapping the order of stitches, we just might take a little bit more time, not to decrease the number of stitches, which can sometimes happen if we yarn over pull through more than 2 loops. And we want to make sure that we maintain the number of stitches that we started with. So for the consecutive row, you will start with 2 Tunisian purl stitches, and then what I like to do is I like to separate the stitches that were in the cable in the correct order. Okay, so these stitches were the group of the second 3 Tunisian knit stitches, but now they are at the beginning of the cable. So I'm going to separate them from the other 3 Tunisian knit stitches and just open up the stitches just to make sure that I'm working the Tunisian knit stitch as it should be between the front and back vertical bars. Okay, and you continue working Tunisian knit stitches. So this will be Tunisian knit stitch into each of the stitches that form the cable. And on this row you might again just take a little bit more time to be conscious of where your stitches are and how you need to work them. And the same is for the second half of the cable. Like so. Then once we worked all the Tunisian knit stitches for the cable, we're going to work 2 Tunisian purl stitches again and an end stitch. And then again standard return pass. Now the standard return pass for this row is worked much easier, as you can see, because we don't have to kind of deal with the stitches that change the order. So this can just, it works much smoother. So now what you're going to do, you can work, this is now up to you how many of these rows where you just work the Tunisian knit stitches into Tunisian knit stitches, how many you are going to have. So if you want to have this stitch pattern which is quite tightly twisted, so the cables will be kind of sitting on top of each other, you might just leave 2 or 3 of these rows which are worked even. If you want to have a looser cable pattern with the cables quite pronounced and then kind of disappearing into the fabric, then you can leave more of this, you can work more of these rows between the cable rows, maybe 5, maybe even 6, to just have kind of like a gentle twisting on your fabric. And once you finished it, you can here on this swatch I worked the last cable row, and then I worked 2 more rows before I bound off. So you might want to do that too, just to have more even edge on the top. The bind off can be any bind off of your choice. Here I bound off with Tunisian simple stitch, but you can also maintain the stitch pattern. So you would bind off a Tunisian pearl bind off in Tunisian pearl stitches, Tunisian knit stitch bind off in Tunisian knit stitches. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this very quick tutorial, and watch the space for more Tunisian crochet cable patterns coming in next few days. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.